Hello folks, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be taking you a tour on cross-browser testing using Selenium WebDriver and how to run automated tests on Chrome, Firefox, Edge and Safari browsers on local as well as on the cloud platform. So before we quickly move on to the video and discuss around the things, let me first talk about the agenda that I'll be taking over in this video. So we will be discussing around what is cross-browser testing, why is cross-browser testing required, when to perform cross-browser testing, and finally, we'll demo out by running the cross-browser test on local machine in Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari browsers. And also, we'll be looking into the test execution that can be performed on the cloud platform like LambdaTest. So the first part now, what is cross-browser testing? So cross-browser testing refers to verifying the web application works as expected around different browsers, its respective versions, operating systems, and devices. So we actually perform the test on multiple browsers and different browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Edge. The same web application should run fine on Chrome, Edge, Safari, Firefox, and read its respective different versions as well. So ideally, we'll be checking out the same web application works across uh, different browsers, and ideally not on different browsers but also on the different platforms as well. So ideally, we may be running the test on Chrome browser on Windows 10 platform or maybe Windows 11 platform, and also on Mac OS as well. My ideally it can run on Linux machines as well. So ideally we are checking that the web application that is under test performs or works correctly on Chrome, Firefox, and all the latest or the popular browsers on different platforms such as Windows, Mac, and Linux. So ideally, we don't know what our end users will be working on and what machine our end users actually have. So that is the reason why we should perform cross-browser testing. Is it helps in eliminating all the issues that the end users might face while using the application. Because if you perform on a particular device and platform combination only, but there is a chance that the end user might be having a different platform than on which the actual testing was performed. So it's better to perform cross-browser testing. It is actually running the same test on different browsers platform combinations. Like I said, running the test on Chrome browser on Windows 10, then the same test on Windows 11 machine on Chrome browser, and maybe on running Chrome browser with 122 version, which is the latest version that is currently in beta. Maybe running the test on a 121 version, that is the older version, 120, 150, and so on. Similarly, running the test on Firefox browser in its multiple versions, also on Safari browsers, and likewise on Edge browsers as well. The next question comes to the mind while we perform the cross-browser testing is, why is cross-browser testing required? So ideally, there are multiple reasons for that, but I've listed some of them here. So for the first reason is to check that the design fits different screen sizes, orientations, and looks perfect. So ideally, if you are having a Windows 10 with 14-inch screen or maybe 15-inch screen, the the web application actually looks or performs perfectly well as per the design, and the UI is as per the expected or not. Similarly, there are Mac OS with different versions and different screen sizes as well. Like we have 14-inch screen and 16-inch screen. So it's probably like the web applications should work fine in 14-inch screen as well as on the 16-inch screen. And the UI also should not be distorted, or maybe if the Chrome browser or whatever browser that we have, that the screen size is different from what on which the testing was performed. It should ideally work on all the platform, on all the devices. Accordingly, the output should be the same. The next reason is to check the behavior of the web application on different browsers. So we also check that the web application performs correctly on different browsers. Like I said, we will be performing test on Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Safari, and so on, and it's different versions. So ideally, the objective is to check that the web application is performing well on the different browsers. To check the efficiency, that is the next point that we are discussing here. To check the efficiency and user experience of the web application on different browsers. I think this is more or less self-explanatory, so I won't be going detail into this. And the last point is to check all the images, videos, colors, etc. are rendered correctly on different browsers. So ideally, when the platform changes, like if it's on Mac OS, and ideally when you perform the test on Windows 10, there might be slight changes with regards to the image rendering as per the chipset that is being used. So ideally, if you're running a Chrome browser or Windows 10 and Windows 11, or maybe a different altogether platform like Linux, you might see a slight change with regards to rendering of the images, videos, and so on. So ideally, cross-browser testing actually helps us identify those level changes, and if there is any issue with regards to the UI part, then can be fixed as a part of faster feedback. When to perform the cross-browser testing? Ideally, the primary objective of the doing testing is to get faster feedback on the builds, to check that the application is stable, so that we can release it in different platforms to the end user. So we don't know actually what kind of platform or browser the end user might be using the product on. So it's better that we perform this kind of testing as early as possible to get the faster feedback, so that we can fix the bugs easily and release a quality build to the end users. This cross-browser testing should be performed on the development environment itself by running the test on the CI/CD pipeline so as to catch the bugs early. Now, the cross-browser testing, as we said, it's a kind of a so UI is a kind of a thing that the end user sees. So it's better to perform the testing as early as possible, maybe in the development environment itself, so that we catch the issues that are more a kind of occurring in nature, that might occur with regards to UI or any other stuff, and might lead to kind of business loss or any other issues due to which the production might get halted. So instead of waiting for a longer time to perform this cross-browser testing, it's normally recommended to perform this kind of testing as early as possible. So let's now move on to the demo. We'll be performing cross-browser testing using Selenium by running the test on Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari browsers on the local machine. But before we move on to the test, let me show you the test scenario that we'll be performing for running the automated test. So we will be making use of this login page that is available on the Internet Heroku app website here. And first, we will come on to this web page. Once this web page gets loaded successfully, we will verify that the login page header is displayed correctly. And we will be asserting this page header. Next, we will be entering the username Tom Smith and the password, that is the super secret password, and clicking on the login button. Once the login is successful, we will verify that the logout button is displayed successfully on this page, and this marks the end of the test scenario. And we will be running the same test on Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari. So we will be running the same test on 4 different browsers. Now let me quickly take you to the IntelliJ IDE, where we'll be writing the Selenium test. Let me quickly give you an overview around pom.xml. We are using the current latest dependency versions for Selenium and TestNG. These versions have been updated in the properties block here. If you want to know more about how to create a Maven project using IntelliJ, you can check out my previous video tutorial, how to create Maven project in IntelliJ. I'll provide the link in the comments and the description as well. But before I move on to the next things, let me show you some more things. Like I'll be using page object model here, as it allows code maintainability and readability easily. So I'll be creating 2 different pages here. One, the login page for locating for housing all the elements, web elements related to the login page, and the secure area page, which will house all the elements of the secure area page. And finally, we'll write the test in the cross browser test class here. And you can see here, for the setup thing, I've created a single method called setup, where I'll be supplying or getting all the browser values as a string in the parameter itself. This browser value will be set using parameter annotation of TestNG. And finally, the browser values will be set using the TestNG XML. Like you can see a parameter name browser. This browser actually equates to this browser here. This browser here, this parameter browser actually has the values supplied in the testng XML, where we'll be supplying the value as Chrome here. And finally, this login page test will be run. Similarly, all the tests will be run on Firefox, Edge, and Safari. There are different test blocks created for different browsers. And if you check out the browser setup method here, the code is pretty simple. I've put in the different if else conditions here. So this if else condition actually will help us to run the test on the different browsers. So if the browser name that is supplied in the TestNG XML is Chrome, then this statement for WebDriver will be instantiated, where it will start the Chrome driver. Accordingly, if the browser name is supplied as Edge, it will start the Edge browser. Similarly for Firefox and likewise for Safari driver. In case if the incorrect browser name, like apart from Chrome, Edge, Firefox or Safari, any other browser name is being supplied or any other invalid values are supplied, then this test will show through an error stating that browser name is not specified correctly. It should be either Chrome, Firefox, Edge or Safari. Now, with this, the setup part is complete. Uh, the next part is related to the actual scenario where our test will navigate to the Internet Heroku apps and then take us to the login page. Next, I have created this login page class, which actually houses all the web elements related to the login page. So the first assertion ideally that we will be running is to check that we are correctly landed on the login page. So we'll do so by checking out the page header. So if you check out the login page here, if you check out the login page here, so if you check out the login page, the type page header that is displayed is login page. So ideally, we'll be locating this uh, header using the tag name h2. You can see in the developer tools, like the header h2 is used to locate the text login page. So ideally, the same thing is been written in the code as well. We will be finding the page header using driver.find element by tag name h2, and finally we'll use the Selenium's get text method to return the text of this page header in the string format. Then next, we'll be locating the username and the password field. So ideally, you can check out that the ID username is we can be used for locating the username field. Similarly, the password field can be located using the password ID. And finally, for locating the login button, we can use the class name radius. So you can just check out. So dot represents the class name here, and you can see, like if we check out for dot radius, we are getting the web element of the login button. So similarly in the test as well, we'll be supplying these values. Like for the username field, we'll be finding it using ID username. Then the password field will be located using the ID password. And finally, the login button will be located using class name radius. After this, the next step that we have is to perform login, which we'll perform using uh, by entering the username and the password, correct username and password, and clicking on the login button. Now, if you see, as soon as we click on the login button, we are landed on the secure page area. So this is the same thing we'll be trying using the perform logging method as well. We will first find out the username field and send the keys to enter the username. Finally, by entering the password, we can in the password field we'll be sending out the password values and then clicking on the login button. Now, once this login part is done successfully, we should be redirected to the new secure area page. So ideally, I have created another page, another class called secure area page. So after the login button is clicked, it will return a new instance of this secure area page internally. And on this page, since I've not used any implicit wait in the test throughout, I'll be waiting for the logout button since transition of the pages takes some time. So ideally, we'll wait for the logout button to be displayed by using the explicit wait in Selenium WebDriver. And I've used this WebDriver wait in the constructor. I have just instantiated the new WebDriver wait and with the seconds of with the duration of 30 seconds. And then finally, we have created a is logout button displayed method that returns a boolean value. Ideally, it will check out for the condition like expected condition dot visibility of element located by. So ideally, this will wait for the logout button to be visible. The duration would be 30 seconds. If the logout button is not found, then it will throw a kind of no such element exception error. But if the element is found, It will locate the element using the class name button. Now, let's check out the secure area page here and see what is the locator for this button. So ideally, you can check out the class name is button. Ideally, is the single class here on this page. So we can make use of this class name dot button. And since we are using the class name locator strategy, we'll just supply the class name here button. And then finally, the Selenium's is displayed method will be used to through to return boolean value like true or false. If the element is displayed, it will return true. If the element is not displayed, it will return false. And ideally, in the test, if you just check out, we are just verifying assert true, like secure area, each logout button displayed. So we are expecting that the logout button should be displayed. That is the reason why we have used assert true. Now, in this case, if the logout button is not displayed, it will return false, and this particular assertion will fail. And finally, when the test is run, after the test, it will call this method driver.quit. Now, driver.quit actually will close all the browser session that is currently in progress. And ideally, this will make way for the test to be closed. Now, let's quickly jump on to the TestNG XML file. Now, there are four different test blocks that I have created here. For running the test on Chrome browser, then on the Firefox browser, the third one for Edge browser, and the last one for the Safari browser. Now, let me right click on this and run the test so we can see the different tests, a single test running on four different browsers. Here we go. So the Chrome browser has started now, and we can see the test pass. Now the Firefox browser starts. The test is in progress and it's completed. Now the Edge driver works. And finally, let's see, this is the Edge browser. So the test is now running on the Edge browser, and you can see it's successfully passed. So in the IntelliJ IDE, we can check out the test results. It's just waiting for the teardown method to get closed. And we can see there were four tests that were run, and all the tests passed successfully. With this, we come to an end to the cross-browser demo on the local machine. In the next cross-browser testing demo, we will be running the Selenium test in parallel using Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari browsers on the local machine. In the previous demo, we saw that all of the tests ran sequentially one after the another. The first Chrome browser test ran. When it ended successfully, the next test on the Firefox browser started, and then with the Edge browser, and then finally with the Safari browser. But if you check out, this browser test actually took most of the time because each of the tests ran in its own time. So for example, the Chrome browser test took 10 seconds to run sequentially after the other test. After the Chrome browser test again, 10 seconds were taken by the Firefox, and then maybe more than 10 seconds will be taken by Edge, and then so on for the Safari browser. So this actually takes up lots of the time. When the consider an example, if there are more test scenarios that needs to be tested on different browsers, it would take like around 2 to 4 hours of testing if the tests are more than if there are multiple tests that we need to run. So let's take an example of a scenario of a web application that runs on all the popular browsers such as Chrome, Firefox, Safari, etc. Each of its tests takes like around 10 seconds to run on a browser. So considering four different browsers, it will take almost 40 seconds to run. So this is where actually the parallel testing comes to the rescue. It reduces the overall test execution time. It provides faster feedbacks on the build. And this faster feedback actually helps the team to fix the issues early and remove the blockers. So let's now move to the demo and check out how to perform parallel cross-browser testing using Selenium. So before we move on to the code and the demo part, let me also give you a brief description around parallel testing. So parallel testing is a way to execute multiple automation tests simultaneously. These tests are run on different threads and consume different resources. Now, when I talk about different threads and different resources, what I mean here is there are different set of threads that are used. So for example, if there are four tests that are run concurrently, there are four different threads in Java on which these tests are actually run. So to handle these threads safely, we will be using the thread local class in Java, which will eventually help us in running all the tests concurrently in parallel, and that too with thread safe. So this thread local class in Java is used for setting the WebDriver, and thread local class in Java is thread safe and allows to run the test in parallel. This thread local class ensures that only one thread gets access at any time, and that there is, and it also ensures that there is no conflict between concurrent access of for multiple threads. So if there are multiple threads, so for example, if you are running the parallel test in multiple threads, like the we want to run the test simultaneously for Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari, so there will be four different threads on which the test will be run. So we don't want each other thread to overlap and make a kind of a overlapping issue with the browser sessions. So thread local instance is represented as a, that is the reason why the thread local class is used here. And this class is, if you check out on line number 19 here, this is a private static field in Java class, and that stores the thread specific information. These variables are not globally these variables are not actually global variables, and they cannot be accessed by other threads unless they are explicitly passed to other threads. So ideally, if you define a thread local class, it will be thread safe. One thread will not be able to see what is going on in the other thread, and simultaneously for the third and the fourth threads as well. So if there are multiple threads running, each thread run out on its own. Each thread has its own specific information only. There are no overlapping of the information between the threads. And that is the reason why I've used thread local here. And you can see I've passed on WebDriver inside the thread local itself. Okay. And since it's static final, I have defined it at the global level here. It's a static, private static final field. And this driver variable, once it's instantiated, we are using it to set the different drivers that we want to run the test on. So driver.set method is actually a part of the thread local class itself, and it helps in instantiating the Chrome driver. Similarly, if the driver value is set to Edge, it will start the Edge driver, and Firefox, it will start the Firefox, and similarly for likewise for the Safari browser, it will start the uh, Safari browser. And you can check out this one more difference here. Like previous, we used to get driver.get, that was actually WebDriver specific, but this driver.get is specific to the thread local class. And after that, we have all the Selenium classes methods exposed here. So after driver.get, so this is a part of the thread local instance, and after get, we get the all the methods related to Selenium. So I'll be using driver.navigate get.navigate to. So ideally, thread local will call on the navigate method, and then finally it will navigate to this login website. So previously, what we discussed around the scenario for the login page, we are using the same scenario only, like the Heroku internet app. This is the scenario that we are using. So ideally, we'll be on the login page. We'll verify this page header, enter the username, password, and finally click on login. Once the login is successful, we will verify whether the logout button is displayed or not. So it's the same scenario that you can see here. The only thing here is we have just used the thread local class to run the test in parallel. And you can see also here, wherever we pause on the driver instance, we are using driver.get, which is a part of the thread local. Get is the part of this thread local class, and driver is actually the variable that is used to instantiate the thread local class. And similarly, if you run the test, you'll see the test running in parallel and the same test getting passed as well. Even in the thread tear down method as well, you'll see driver.get, and then finally the quit method called upon. And I have created another TestNG XML file here, and you can see to run the test in parallel, I'll be making the use of TestNG here, and passed on the parallel tag here, which actually I'm passing on using on the test. So the test will be run parallel. So ideally, you see this is the test block here, the first test block, which is for the Chrome browser. The next one is for Firefox. The third one is for Chrome, and finally the Safari browser. So all of these tests, so test number 1, test number 2, test number 3, and test number 4, all of these 4 tests will run in parallel because we have defined the method as parallel equal to test here. Let me quickly run this test and see the Selenium test, cross-browser test actually running in action. And we can see the tests have started successfully. We can see all of the browsers loading, uh, and then completing the test in real quick. Just waiting for the Safari browser to complete the tear down method. And rest, you can see all of the tests have been marked as passed. Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Edge, and the test ran in a real quick, like in just a span of 3 to 4 seconds, and we can see all of the browsers opening and successfully running the test. And this is how parallel testing can actually help us in testing and in testing and getting the faster feedback on the builds, also on multiple browsers and the respective versions as well. And this is how we can save our time and test on different browsers, so and ensure that the web application works fine on or most of the popular browsers that we choose upon to test our product. Now let's focus on running the demo for cross-browser testing on LambdaTest Cloud platform in parallel on Chrome, Edge, and Firefox browser using Windows Test platform. And we will also be running the test on Safari browser, as Safari browser cannot be run on Windows machine. So we'll be making use of Mac OS Sonoma platform for running those tests. But before we run the test, let me tell you about some of the things that are actually necessary from the cloud platform like Lambda, the test on that platform. We would need some certain capabilities that those are mandatory and required for running the test on the Lambda test platform. So ideally, the first case is with regards to the buying a proper plan that would suit your need. So ideally, these platforms are plug and play kind of platform which provide an infrastructure for running all your automated tests, maybe on like Chrome browsers, different popular browsers. So these have readily available all the browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Safari with their multiple versions. And also these like cloud platforms, cloud support for the provider support for the real devices, so we can make use of iOS as well as Android devices. Multiple popular devices are available for and readily available, which we can like ask on demand and run the test. The only thing is we would require to purchase a plan that would suit our needs. Accordingly, there are pricing options available. You can search over the internet to get know to get all the details about the pricing plans that would suit your needs, and accordingly you can purchase a plan and run all those tests. So this is a website, Lambda Test Capabilities Generator, which you can like easily find over internet. You can just search on for Lambda Test Capabilities Generator, and the first link that you see here, this is what I'm just navigating to, and you see there is a language option as well as the different frameworks option and also the tool options available. We can select the tools as well as the framework as per our requirement and run the test. And also like decide upon the browsers as well as the Android real or the virtual devices that we want to run the test on. So ideally, as I'm making use of Selenium 4 to run the test, I've selected the respective options. Like the language is Java, tool is Selenium, version is Selenium 4, and I'm using TestNG framework. So I've selected all those options here, and you can see uh, it provides us with all the boilerplate code over here. The platform name is set, the browser version is set 222. Now this can be replaced, like 122 is still in the under beta. I can make use of like 121 version, which is a stable version. So I can just select the respective browser from here and select its appropriate versions. There are list of multiple browser versions. Older browser version also available up till like 27.0, and the latest one like 122 in Vita, and the stable one 121. So I'll be making use of Chrome browser 121 version here. And accordingly, you can see like as I select the version, accordingly it gets updated in the code as well. So I'll be selecting 121, and the platform that I will be using is Windows. So ideally, Windows 10 can also be used here. So if you want to update the platform version as well, there is an you can just click on this advanced capabilities option here and accordingly make selection accordingly to the platform that you want to use. Like I want to use Windows 10 here, so I can make use of that. Accordingly, you can also make choose the screen resolution that you want. I will suggest by default. Also, if you want to select an older version of Selenium or accordingly the latest version, you can make a selection based on the version here. I'll just make use of Selenium 4.17 here, And if you want to like select the driver version, you should be able to select the version as well. Even if I don't use the version here, it will by default select the latest version and run the test from the latest version. Accordingly, I can also enter the build name like Selenium demo. I can Selenium cross browser demo, and also the project name like Selenium demo. And I can also make use of test name as well if I want to set something like testing Chrome browser. And you can see as I go and type on the values in the fields here, the respective values get updated here. So I can see the build getting updated here, the project and the name and so on. And if you want some other options, there are multiple options that are available that as per your requirement, you can go ahead and choose those options and make the things working for you. So ideally, if I'm running the test on Chrome browser, I can select the Chrome browser, and I see like Chrome options class have been selected here. If I choose to select like Edge browser, accordingly you can see the Edge options class getting selected here, and the actual code been getting typed out, so that I can just hit this copy button and use it directly in my test. Accordingly, for Firefox, I can choose the Firefox and their respective version. And also, if I want to select Safari, I can go ahead. And since Safari has a different version, like 17.0 is the latest one, and you can see Mac Sonoma is selected by default. Is it as it is the latest operating system rolled out by Mac. So you can accordingly select as per your own requirement, and you'll see the code generated as you go. You can also note out the username and the access key. These two fields are also listed over here, and the values are not provided here. It just says like your Lambda test username, your Lambda test access key. So these two things can be found on the Lambda test website. The only thing is you need to create your own account and purchase a license to run your test on the Lambda test platform. I normally have an account here, so I'll just log on to my uh, uh, account, and I'll just show you where I can get all these values. So I'll just log in with Google, and you can see the account settings here. In the profile section, you see the account settings, and inside that you have a tab called password and security. Here you can find your username and password, and this is a masked value, as this is a secret key. It cannot be exposed, so hence it is a masked value here. I can just press this two button to I can just press this button here, and it will say like it's copy to clip code. I can just copy it and use it when I require to run the test on the LambdaTest Cloud platform. So I'm already have these values updated in my code. I'm not hard coding any of these values like username and password. I will be supplying it using my environment variables. I've already stored it in my environment variables on my local computer, and I'll be using it through my environment variables now. So let's go jump into the code, and I'll just show you. So this is the existing code which we just saw in the previous test. The only catch here is I've just moved the code, since this was a lot of code that I had to write for setting up the base and running the test on different browsers on Lambda test. So what I've done is I've just segregated the base test and the actual test that I need to run. So in the test, you'll just find cross browser test on cloud, and this test is available. There's only single method available for test login page, and it has the same values. Like you can see, it navigates to the test scenario which we discussed previously. It navigates to this login page, checks that the page header is login page, and it will just enter this Tom Smith username and the super secret password, and then click on the login button. And the next secure area page, it will just check if the logout button is visible. So it's the same test scenario that we have been using previously in all of our tests. The only catch here is we'll be running this test on the cloud platform, and there will be 4 different browsers that will be running test on, and all of these tests will be running parallel. So if you see here, test cross browser test with thread local.xml, they have created another XML, a different XML to run the test on cloud. And sorry, this cross browser test hyphen cloud here. So this is the XML I'll be making use of to run the test on the cloud platform. And you can see the parallel equal to test here, and the values updated here: remote Chrome, remote Firefox, remote Edge, and remote Safari here. The test remains the same. There are four different tests. The only thing is I'm just supplying these values as a parameter after the before the classes here. And if you just go to the base test here, I'll just explain you it in a bit, just starting with the Chrome browser first, and then the others will follow. So ideally, if you see, the structure is almost the same before test, and the parameters, browser parameter is supplied in the parameters annotation here. We have a setup method. And like I said, I'm supplying the values of username and the password, username and the access keys through my environment variable. So I'm just getting the user environment variable called lt hyphen underscore username. And once the username is set in the environment variable, it will get the variable name called enter lt under hyphen lt hyphen under sorry lt hyphen username, and it will set check out all the values that is provided in the environment variable for lt username. Similarly, it will check for the lt access key, and it will provide the values using the environment variable. And then we would require like grid URL as well, and these values can be found in the Lambda test documentation. So if you are running the test on any other cloud platform, you can check out the documentation for the grid URL, which is actually used for setting the remote URL for running the test on the cloud platform. So here in Lambda test, it's @hub.lambdatest.com/wd/hub. So these values can be posted here, and it is stored in a string called grid URL here. And similarly, the method, like like we saw in the previous test, it has the value Chrome, and it was just like driver equal to new Chrome driver. Now, since we are running the test on the cloud platform, we would require remote WebDriver to run the test, and for that we would need like Chrome options. So these are all the values that you saw from the Lambda test capabilities generator. I just copied these values from those from that website only. The only catch here is, since we are running the test on four different browsers like Chrome, Firefox, and every browser, we would require LT options to be passed, like the values that I showed here. If you see all of these values from the hash map till the end, the setting the capabilities of the LT options, all these values remains the same. These are kind of general values for that would be required for all the browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari. So what I have done is I've created a separate method, a single method for code reusability, and that's getting LT options. I'm just passing on the build value Selenium cross browser test, project name W3C2, and the plugin Java-TestNG, and then they're returning the hash map values here. So accordingly, once these LT options values are returned, I'm just creating four different methods using if-else conditions. If the browser name is remote underscore Chrome, Chrome options will class will be instantiated, and accordingly the platform will be set, browser will be set, and the capability for setting the LT options will be done. Finally, I'll set the driver using remote WebDriver, and here it will be a remote URL that will be created with username, access key, and the grid URL. And finally, the uh, Chrome options class instance will be passed on here. And finally, based on these Chrome options, like whatever values I've set, it will run the Chrome browser on Windows 10 and 121 version. Similarly, for Edge browser as well, the platform will be the same, like Windows 10 121, and the LT options will be used. And finally, the remote driver. Similarly, for the Chrome browser, the only catch here is I'm using it 122 version here. And then finally, for the Safari browser, I'm using the Safari options. The browser version is 17.0, and then the LT options. There's one more catch here, like if you don't like, it's just a hard coding of the browser value. So in case if you want to set the Chrome options, sorry, the browser version to the latest one. So ideally, there is another wildcard, like you can use the values called latest here. So it will always make use of the latest stable version of the browser that is available on the cloud platform. So ideally, it's 121. It will make use of 121 only. Like in future, if the version goes to 135 and the values is set as latest, so instead of the so it will make use of 135 version only. And if we supply this 121, it will always make use of 121 version only. It's a kind of an hard coded value that is set in the code. So we should avoid these things. It's just for demo purpose that I'm showing you out. That is the reason why I've supplied the values as 121 here. There is another wildcard here, like latest minus one. So if it is latest minus one, it means like it will run the test on the latest stable version minus version. So if the latest stable version is 121, minus one refers to 120. So it will run the test on 120 version. If I give the value as set browser version 2, if for example, comment out this code and keep only this statement here, Chrome options dot set browser version 2 latest minus one. So it will run the test on 120 version, considering 121 is the latest. And if this is not given and just the latest values are given, so in that case it will run the latest current version it will run the test on the latest current version of the browser. So I'm just removing these values from here, and I'll just keep the hard coded values for time being to, to be like 121. So this is the base test, and this all of these things will be said before test, and then finally the after test will be called uh, to quit the driver, like driver.get got quit. So there is another catch here, like we saw, like thread local, it's uh, the instance variable is a driver, and everywhere, like before calling the Selenium methods, we would require to call like driver.get dot, and then the Selenium methods will appear. So what I've done here is I've just created another method called get driver, and which returns the instance of getting an instance of a driver variable, which is the thread locals object ideally. So ideally what will happen is it will return directly driver.get. This statement in fact will be get driver now. And if you see in the test also, like I'm running on cloud, you see get driver here. Instead of driver.get, I've just called get driver here. So this method is actually handy for me to get the driver instance, which is the latest object instance from the thread local. Okay, so next now move on and run the test with the in parallel on the cloud platform now. So I'm just right click. Let me check if I've already run it previously. Mm, okay, so let me right click this and run the test again. And since my username and password are already set in that environment variable on my machine, so there will be no need to again pass on the username and the password and the access key here. You can see the test have started running successfully. And in the meantime, we can just go on to the Lambda test dashboard and check out the test running successfully over there. And you can see a few seconds Selenium cross browser test. We can see there were 4 tests that ran, one on Firefox, Edge, Chrome, and Safari. You can see the icons here, which actually represents the actual browser on which the tests were run. On Safari, it was 17.0 version. On Chrome, it was 121. Edge, it was 121. For Firefox, it was 122. And these three ran on Windows platform. But on this Safari browser, it ran on Mac OS Sonoma version. And let's go inside one by one and see. So you can see on the Safari browser here, the test have loaded, and you can see the test running here. We have a video of the recording of the test that ran, and you can see the values getting updated here, and finally the test coming to uh, an end here. Let's check out the test that ran on the Chrome browser, and you can see the video recording for the and also the different details around the tests that were run, the different steps, commands that were called upon. And you can see the Chrome browser loading, the login page coming up, and then the secure area, and finally the test ran successfully. Let's now move on to the next, that is the Firefox. Again, you can see the Windows 10 platform here. You can see the version as well, the Windows 10 platform. You can see the Windows Firefox browser loading here, the test running successfully, and then coming to an end here. Now let's check out similarly the Edge browser. You can see the details, the resolution, the time taken as well. And let me run the test and see the video recording of the test that ran. And finally, the test coming to an end. With this, we come to an end to this video. which was related to the cross-browser testing, and then we covered up the parallel testing as well. I hope you found this video knowledgeable and you will be able to make most of it. Thank you so much for watching.